I am unsure how to process this information, and I am aware that it is a significant amount of data to take in. It has been 2 months since D-Day, and my wife and I have decided to attempt to repair our marriage. I will provide some background information. We have been married for over 10 years and have a 4-year-old child. Our marriage was complicated by the presence of a child with a disability from the outset. In 2016, we experienced a period of considerable stress due to the demands of work and studies. This resulted in a separation of 4 months. My behavior towards my wife was not always optimal in the early years of our marriage. However, I was able to identify and address my issues through counseling. I was also willing to accept responsibility for my actions and to engage with the therapists in a constructive manner. In early March, I was resolved to improve the situation. I discovered my wife's infidelity when a text message appeared on her phone from the man with whom she was having an affair. The message said, "I love you back." This indicated that my wife had informed him of her love, which led me to speculate about the nature of their relationship. I decided to research the man further and discovered that he was one of her colleagues. Upon returning home in the early morning, I prepared myself to check my wife's phone. Unfortunately, what I found was not good. There were text messages expressing love and strong feelings for each other. Both parties admitted that they were struggling to resist their feelings. Let's go back to February 2022. My wife approached me during the early stages of my workday, which coincided with my work-from-home day. She informed me that she had something important to discuss, and I agreed to listen. She then revealed that she was contemplating a divorce. This was a complete surprise, but I listened for the next 2 hours while I was supposed to be working from home. She proceeded to go into detail about a list of 5 items that she absolutely would not compromise on and 15 other points that were extremely important to her. I tried to accept the situation, but I was completely caught off guard by the talk of divorce. She outlined 5 points that she would not compromise on and 15 other points that were of great importance to her. She requested that I work on these matters. It was challenging to accept this situation, but I tried to handle it with grace. After that meeting, I spent the next year or so working on that list. It became my primary focus. The aforementioned text was a significant event in my life, as it was a shock to me when I discovered it in early March 2023. I had no knowledge of the affair between my spouse and the other individual until that point. Since then, I have learned that my wife had already given up on our marriage when she gave me the aforementioned list. While she did not explicitly say so at the time, I have since been able to discern this from her subsequent actions. It is evident that this was the case, and she never informed me of this. I received the list, but she did not follow up on it. Instead, she only complained to me about 1 item on the list that I had not completed. This information is now clear after discovering the affair, which she had initiated in the same month she began discussing the possibility of divorce. She began confiding in her colleagues at work, including her superiors. My therapist informed me that my wife was seeking support for a divorce and that she had unexpectedly found someone who not only supported the idea of divorce but also became involved in an affair with her subordinate. It is worth mentioning that my wife primarily works from home because of the restrictions imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. She was not physically spending 40 to 50 hours a week with this individual. They mainly communicated through Zoom, but they did not meet in person. The relationship between the 2 individuals in question began in July 2022 when they went on a lunch date. This was the moment when my wife started to realize her feelings for the man in question. They were already discussing and complaining about their respective partners, pointing out perceived flaws in their relationships. They started asking each other questions about their own relationships. Before long, they began sharing personal secrets that their real partners were unaware of. In August 2022, when their company required them to be physically present at the workplace, they were forced to acknowledge their relationship. A week later, my wife claims that they became inseparable. They would take breaks together, have lunch together, walk to their cars together, and even ended up with cubicles right next to each other in early February. My wife made it official and quit her job, supposedly because she wanted to focus on our family. That's what she told me. Interestingly, that same day, she confessed her love to her subordinate, and he reciprocated the feelings for the following 5 weeks. They were deeply involved in texting, calling, emailing, and so forth. It is possible that at least one date was arranged, although it is unclear whether physical contact was made before it was terminated. There is evidence in the form of text messages and emails that this may have occurred, although some details are so implausible that it is difficult to believe that physical contact did not occur. According to my wife, the individual in question was actively searching for a new apartment and was prepared to leave his girlfriend of 7 years. This is difficult to reconcile with the notion that they had not already made some serious commitments with someone else. On the day in question, I had gathered sufficient evidence, including photographic documentation and the transmission of these images to my own device via her mobile phone. Initially, she attempted to deny the truth of the matter, but upon my informing her that I had recorded her conversations, she shifted her narrative, attributing blame to me. The situation was certainly intriguing, but I managed to remain calm, acknowledge her difficulties, and continue forward. She asserted that she was unable to sever contact with the individual in question. The man was collaborating with her on a creative project, a book. I managed to find the presence of mind to suggest that she should at least go no contact until we could meet with our marriage therapist, who could then decide the rules for communication. She agreed to this suggestion. I also made it clear that she had to end things with the man the following day and gave her the chance to call him herself on what I'll call D-. On the day of confrontation, I gathered evidence, including photographic documentation and email messages from her phone. Initially, she attempted to deny the affair, but when I informed her that I had documented her messages, she quickly shifted the blame to me. However, I remained composed and did not let this affect my composure. I accepted the situation and proceeded. She acknowledged the challenges she was facing and continued to move forward. She claimed that she could not sever contact with the individual in question because they were collaborating on a creative project, specifically a book. I managed to persuade her to temporarily cease communication with him until we had an opportunity to discuss the matter further. I arranged to meet with our marriage therapist. I believed it would be beneficial to allow the therapist to determine the most appropriate approach to communication. To my surprise, she agreed to this course of action. I also made it clear that she had to end things with the man by the following day. Furthermore, I offered her the opportunity to make the call herself. I regret that I was not present during that conversation. A telephone conversation was held at that time, during which a significant amount of irrelevant information was discussed. It subsequently emerged that she spent the following 2 weeks attempting to reconcile her role as a wife and affair partner. This was when I discovered the contents of the book they were working on together, which was a novel they were co-authoring. The narrative revolves around a woman who engages in a romantic relationship with a younger man. The age difference between the two partners is 28 years, which is considerably younger than my wife's age of 43. Furthermore, the husband of the protagonist dies. There are even emails in which the author explicitly states that the husband in the book is based on her own experiences. This led me to conclude that the author was attempting to resolve her own troubled relationship through fiction. This realization caused me to become extremely distressed. I conducted further research on the author's partner and discovered that he was in a relationship with another woman. I contacted her through an app and she responded by thanking me for informing her that she was unaware of any of the circumstances. She expressed a desire to learn more. I also discussed the situation with my therapist. Despite it being a significant error on my part, I felt compelled to be transparent with my wife about my actions. It is challenging to share information with your spouse, yet in reality, my wife turned out to be unfaithful and dishonest. The woman I contacted turned out to be kind-hearted and devastated by her partner's infidelity. My wife was furious that I had found her and reached out. Interestingly, my wife had been secretly communicating with the affair partner behind my back even after everything that had happened on D-. Eventually, my wife contacted the affair partner in accordance with both my demands and the instructions of our marriage therapist. However, the AP instructed her to cease all communication. This resulted in the termination of their connection, at least temporarily, after 5 weeks. I subsequently learned from her that she had ended the relationship with him and that he was no longer in contact. This has been the case for the past 8 weeks. My wife has gradually begun to reveal the truth, disclosing it in small increments and typically only when I prompted her, such as when I suggested retrieving her phone and having an expert recover all the deleted texts. She has acknowledged developing feelings for the other man and that the emotional affair lasted for more than 8 months. Despite this, she is now pleading for reconciliation. We have made some progress over the past 2 months since D-. However, it is still emotionally and physically devastating for me. One of the most challenging aspects of this situation has been the realization that my wife's sudden increase in desire for closeness in February was because she wanted to be close with this other man. I was merely a backup plan for her while she waited for him to make a move. Despite my wife's constant denials, I have discovered concrete evidence that contradicts her claims that their relationship was not physical. It has been a pattern of her lying about almost everything until I found proof. My wife has a history. She has previously experienced bowel obstructions which have required hospitalization on 2 occasions. Typically, these obstructions resolve naturally within 2 to 3 days of admission to hospital. However, this is a significant concern, as last week on Tuesday she started experiencing severe symptoms of another obstruction. She was immediately taken to hospital. During the initial blood tests, it was discovered that she was pregnant, despite numerous attempts in the past to conceive naturally. Our son was the result of fertility treatments. We had never experienced a natural pregnancy to our knowledge, so amidst the difficult situation of my wife's bowel obstruction, we now learn about her pregnancy, which limits the treatment options available for her condition. Eventually, she had to undergo surgery to remove a portion of her small intestine. Meanwhile, my family and close friends, who are aware of the affair, are questioning if I am the father of the child. I have no idea. What I do know is that we both identify as Christians and she has always been against terminations. I express my doubts about the child's paternity to her, and she is now discussing the possibility of terminating the pregnancy with anyone who will listen. After that, I will present the sequel to my saga. I decided to take her to court, armed with damning evidence of her infidelity. I initiated divorce proceedings, anticipating a challenging process. However, I experienced a profound sense of liberation, as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I felt liberated from the constant lies and deceit that had characterized our relationship. It was a positive experience to stand up for myself and prioritize my own needs. However, my soon-to-be ex-wife was not as receptive to this change. She was pregnant and the man she had an affair with was refusing to accept the child. He also left her, leaving her to deal with the consequences of her actions. I did not feel sorry for her, but I did feel vindicated. My soon-to-be ex-wife was not experiencing an easy situation. It could be said that karma had its way, as she was pregnant and the man she had an affair with was now refusing to accept the child. He too had left her, leaving her to deal with the consequences of her actions. One might think that I should have felt sorry for her, but I did not. Instead, I felt relief and vindication. Meanwhile, my ex-wife, my former wife, was experiencing significant distress. She was isolated and the man she had chosen over me was absent. Her infidelity had resulted in the loss of numerous aspects of her life, including her family, her stability, and her reputation. I acknowledged that there was a sense of gratification in witnessing the consequences of her actions. With regard to the child, I was no longer invested in that outcome. I had made a decision and was committed to its execution. There was no room for doubt or regret. I had given her my all, and she had thrown it away for a brief sexual encounter. There was no turning back. As days turned into weeks, then months, I began to feel something I had not felt in a long time: happiness. It was genuine, true happiness. My heart felt lighter. My mind was clear. For the first time in a long time, I was looking forward to the future. There were moments of weakness and moments of doubt. I experienced moments of nostalgia for the woman I believed I had married. There were also moments of regret, wishing that things could have turned out differently. However, these moments were brief and transient. They came and went, leaving me with a stronger sense of resolve. In retrospect, I do not regret my decision. I am currently in a better emotional and mental state. Most importantly, I have no resentment or bitterness. Instead, I feel a sense of relief and closure. I am at peace with the past and ready to move forward. The future, my future, and it appears to be quite promising. Second story. I am a 39-year-old man and my spouse is a 36-year-old woman. We have been together for approximately 16 years and have been married for almost 14 years. We have 2 sons, aged 12 and 9. In the past, my wife and I have always gotten along well. Of course, we have had our share of arguments or disagreements, but we have never had full-blown fights. Despite occasional disagreements, we have always been able to communicate effectively with each other. My wife is a hairstylist, while I am a nurse. She has also worked as an educator. The brand was well known and the job was enjoyed by the individual in question. My own career has been progressing steadily, and approximately 4 or 5 years ago I assumed the role of director. At that time I was earning a satisfactory income, but my wife, who works as a hairstylist, often had to work in the evenings and weekends, which meant that she was unable to spend as much time with our sons as she would have liked. This was the reason for my wife's decision to become a stay-at-home mother. She was able to remain a homemaker for her children while continuing her education, which she found enjoyable. However, when the COVID-19 pandemic began, her education job was no longer available. Once the pandemic began to abate, she received another promotion at work, which resulted in her earning a very good salary. In September 2020, our eldest child was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. This constituted a significant change in our lifestyle, resulting in considerable stress, anxiety, and depression for both of us. Consequently, we gradually drifted apart over the past few years. We ceased having date nights altogether. Over the past 2 years, we have been concerned about leaving our child with others, but we are now making progress in this area. During this period, we became emotionally distant and more like roommates than partners. I fully acknowledge that I have not been the best husband. I neglected her emotionally and left her feeling alone. It is my sincere hope that I can rectify this situation, but unfortunately, I am unable to do so. Despite my physical presence, I was unable to provide emotional support to my partner, as she was not employed. I expected her to manage our son's blood sugar at night, as I had to wake up early for work. Additionally, I expected her to handle household chores during the day. Conversely, she began to resent me for failing to assist with domestic tasks or provide support during challenging moments with our son's fluctuating blood sugar levels. As a couple who previously excelled at communication, we ceased all forms of communication. We would exchange brief, high-five-like gestures at the door due to our demanding work schedules and the hectic sporting schedules of our sons. Due to our demanding work schedules and the hectic sporting schedules of our sons, we were unable to make time for each other during this period. My wife began playing a video game called Fortnite with our sons, which she greatly enjoyed. She even played when the boys were not around, staying up late at night after I had gone to bed. She would then retire to bed and continue playing while also monitoring our son's blood sugar levels. This reached a point where she would still be playing when I woke up, returned home from work and went to bed. Over the past 6 months, she had formed an online group of friends with around 5 to 6 people, who with the act of cheating began with the development of a close friendship between the woman and a particular man. I was not aware of this until later, but she regularly chatted with him on Instagram and even sent him a gift through the mail. She then came up with a massive lie to visit him, telling me that one of her old friends from her teaching days was opening a new salon and asked if she could come over for the weekend to assist with the grand opening. A former colleague from her teaching days was opening a new salon and requested assistance with the grand opening. My wife shared this story with me, and since I had no reason to doubt or mistrust her, I believed her. She drove a long distance of 10 hours to spend the weekend with this man she met online during her absence. For some reason, I accessed our iCloud account and noticed a bunch of recently deleted photos. My heart sank when I saw them because they revealed what was happening throughout the trip. She essentially turned off her phone and barely communicated with me or our boys for the entire 4 days. Ultimately, she was absent, returning home after the trip and providing a false account of her whereabouts. I subsequently confronted her about the truth of the matter. After a period of several hours, she eventually admitted to her actions. She maintains that the relationship was merely a friendship and that no physical intimacy occurred. However, the fact that she left and spent the weekend with another man is significant. The trip took place approximately 6 weeks ago. Following the initial shock, something unexpected occurred. We engaged in constructive dialogue, discussing how we ended up in our current situation and how our relationship reached this point. It was a highly productive conversation. Throughout the course of events, she never attempted to diminish the gravity of her actions. Instead, she assumed full responsibility for her conduct. As a consequence, we resolved to give our relationship another chance. We both articulated our affection for each other and concurred that divorce was not a desirable outcome at that juncture. Additionally, I began seeing a therapist because I was concerned that I would lose my sanity otherwise. I requested that she block any contact with this individual, and she agreed, deleting Fortnite and all social media apps. 2 or 3 weeks later, while driving to my son's, I observed that she had reactivated her Snapchat account. During a baseball game, I observed that she had Snapchat installed on her mobile phone. I inquired about it, and she promptly denied any knowledge of it when we arrived at the game. I saw her logging out of Snapchat, so I excused myself and left. She subsequently sought me out, expressed remorse, and handed me her phone, imploring me to examine its contents. However, I was no longer inclined to do so. We engaged in a heated debate about the matter. That night, I instructed her to leave the house. However, we eventually calmed down, and she ended up staying the following weekend. On the next occasion, I decided to check out this guy's TikTok account, and I discovered that it included my wife among its followers. This led to another major argument, during which I informed her that she needed to leave and that I wanted her the following night. We slept in separate beds, but I did not pursue the matter of her departure. Let us now turn to a recent incident. I discovered her playing Fortnite with another man online. That evening, I viewed her phone and saw a message to another online acquaintance expressing regret and shame. She expressed interest in joining so that we could all play together. This led to another significant conflict, during which I stated that I was no longer willing to continue. I gathered my belongings and departed, spending the night at my brother's residence. I subsequently returned to my place of residence. Our tickets for my youngest son's inaugural Major League Baseball game were scheduled for Saturday night, and we had planned to attend an amusement park. Today, therefore, for the benefit of the boys, we engaged in these activities together. We held another important conversation this morning. She stated that for this to work, I must control my anger outbursts, which I agree is not a healthy state of mind, and that I should cease to snoop through her phone, despite her previous assertion that she had nothing to hide and that she left. Her phone was unlocked for me to check if I wished to do so. Today, I contacted my therapist, who referred me to an anger management group session, which I signed up for this Wednesday night. She once again assured me that she would cut off contact with him and stop playing Fortnite, as it was not worth it. She also mentioned her willingness to do so. To attend marriage counseling and insist that she does not wish to divorce, I arose 3 hours ago at 2 a.m. and proceeded downstairs, only to discover her engaged in playing Fortnite on the couch. Despite the fact that she was not playing with the aforementioned individual, I believe that she would have done so had he been online as well. This morning, she explicitly stated that despite her assertion that she would never play again, she has continued to do so. I have ceased attempting to persuade her otherwise and simply wished her good night and walked away. I must admit that I have been excessively controlling of her behavior for the past 6 weeks. It is clear that I have completely lost trust in her. I want to know every detail of her actions and where she is going. Furthermore, I am uncertain about the outcome of this situation. However, I have a strong sense of where we are headed. It is unfortunate that I still genuinely love her and believe that she still loves me, yet I am unsure if we are in love anymore. I will provide updates along the way, but I am uncertain if counseling can help us at this stage. Thank you for your consideration.